everyone, I'm your host, Tom Nicita, and welcome to episode 8 of the Feb4 Sports Show. Again, as always, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for commenting on whether it's Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube. We appreciate the views, we appreciate the feedback, and we appreciate you guys tuning in. So some of the biggest news over the weekend were the State of Origin squads being named. Now, I don't want to brag or anything like that. Don't want to sound too cocky, but I called quite a few of the inclusions into both squads. I called Reuben Cotter, which, a few people were saying. I called Selwyn Cobbo about a month ago. I picked Xavier Coates as well. All you have to do is go back to last week's episode and you'll see that I quite clearly said that I believe Jack Whiten was going to be picked in the centres over Stephen Crichton or Sifa Talakai. The only thing that I had wrong was I believe that Nicho Hynes was going to be picked as the number 14 on the bench. However, we saw Stephen Crichton get selected there. I think that's a little bit of a weird move. We obviously know that Stephen Crichton can cover the wing in the centre and potentially even fullback. However, we've got no one to replace the halves if there's an injury in the halves. Obviously, you've got Jack Whiten there in the centres who will slot in, but I certainly wouldn't have gone with that combo. If I was going to pick Jack Whiten in the centres, I definitely would have picked Nicho Hynes in that number 14 role, but I still do think it is a strong Blues squad. One thing I didn't see coming was the dropping of Josh Addo-Carr and Jake Trbojevic and picking Daniel Tupou and Joseph Suaalii. I understand why they'd be bringing Joseph Suaalii into the camp. Obviously, he's 18 years old. They want to acclimatise him to that Origin camp. So, hopefully when he comes in a few years' time, he's not feeling the pressure. I do find Daniel Tupou's selection to be a little bit interesting. For me, Josh Addo-Carr is always one of our best players. And if he doesn't have a great game, you can just tell that he's passionate and he really, really wants to be there. That was quite surprising to me. Outside of that, there were no really other massive surprises to me. I wanted to see Tariq Sims in the Blues jersey, so I'm glad to see him. Yes, he did probably take Jake Trebojevic's spot or even Angus Crichton's spot. But I think that Tariq Sims, when he's on, can be one of our biggest game changers. I also don't like the fact that Tyson Frizzell's been left out of the starting 17. I say it every single Origin period. Tyson Frizzell is always one of our best performers, whether it's effort, those big-time tackles on our line, or the big runs that he has to make, that he puts in, a lot of work for at the line. I always think Tyson Frizzell is one of our best players, so that's probably one of the only big changes I would have made there. Onto the Queensland Maroons. Again, no huge surprises. You only, again, have to go back to last week where we said Reuben Cotter should have been named for Queensland, which we did see. Obviously, Pat Garrigan and Reuben Cotter have come in and taken over a spot that David Fifita had left. I don't think Billy Slater has left David Fifita out because he doesn't like him or anything like that. I think that Billy Slater, being a brand new coach into the Origin period, is kind of trying to put his foot down and show, I'm going to pick players who are in form, regardless of talent or anything like that. I'm going to pick players who are in form and really passionate about the jersey. I think that's what Billy Slater's done. I think everyone knows in the NRL community that David Fifita is an absolute animal and he's easily one of the best and most lethal ball runners in the game when he's on. But I think Billy Slater's really just tried to come in and say, if you play in form, if you're doing the right things week in, week out, I'm going to pick you no matter what. And I actually kind of like the move from Billy, I'm not going to lie. I think Queensland have much more of a chance this year than some people are giving them credit for. I see Ladbrokes at the moment have the New South Wales Blues $1.50 to win the Origin Series. And quite frankly, to me, I really like the value in the Maroons. I think they've got a great squad. I think they match us all around the park. I think it's going to be a really, really good series. And I'm tipping the Blues to win the series 2-1, but would not surprise me one bit if Queensland come away with the biscuits. The biggest takeaways in the NRL for me over the weekend were the Storm picking up a really crucial win for them. Obviously, they'd lost 2 straight, so they really needed to pick up a win against Manly, who didn't have Tom Trbojevic. They were a little bit more vulnerable than usual. Melbourne picked up a 28-8 win. Now, the scoreline would suggest that Melbourne were really dominant and that Manly weren't too good. But if you watch the game, in the first half in particular, Melbourne were all over the place. Offensively, they were out of sync. They had that many block plays that were run poorly. People were overrunning the pass. People were underpassing a pass, so they were passing it around their ankles and stuff like that. They really just didn't look in sync. Obviously, when you have individuals like Cameron Munster and Jerome Hughes who can just change a game and turn it on their head like that, you're always in for a chance. And to be honest, I don't think Melbourne looked great. However, when Jerome Hughes and Cameron Munster are playing well, you don't really need everyone else to be playing that well. They were lucky enough to come away with a win there. The Panthers beating the Cowboys over the weekend was also another massive talking point. Again, last week I said that I saw that Penrith could be putting 20 to 30 points on the Cowboys, and we saw that in 22-0. The thing that was most impressive to me, though, wasn't the Penrith Panthers scoring 22 points. It was the fact that they kept the Cowboys to 0 points. And, when you're doing that against players who have been really, really impressive this year, such as, Scott Drinkwater, Tom Dearden, Chad Townsend, Reece Robson, Jason Taumalolo, when you're doing that against players who have been really impactful offensively this season. I think it goes to show how good the Panthers have been and are getting defensively. Again, I speak about it pretty much every week, saying that the Panthers have had holes in their defence, and every single week I said that they're getting better and better. And outside of Stephen Crichton missing 7 tackles and Liam Martin missing 8 tackles, which again, that is a lot of missed tackles. But outside of that, they were almost flawless defensively. Again, they didn't concede any points. To me, they'd never really looked like conceding any points. I was incredibly impressed with the Panthers. And to be honest, we all know it, but they're in a league of their own right now. I want to shit on the Panthers supporters as much as possible. I like taking the piss out of them. But when the Panthers are playing like that, I can't really say much. To be honest, I don't think anyone's in their league right now. Whatever the betting companies have them to win the premiership this year, the odds will be too high. If it's anything over $2, I'd definitely be throwing some money on that now. I don't see anyone touching them anytime soon. The Broncos are on an absolute tear right now. They're coming in 4th after their win over the Titans on the weekend. I want to share a little story with you guys. So basically on Friday night, I was down in Spice Alley, just near our Central, tucking into some pad see ew and dumplings. I was having a fucking ripper of a time. And my mate Corey brought up on his phone on KO. We saw that the Broncos were losing 24-4 at halftime against the Gold Coast Titans. And the first thing I said to Corey was, let's have a little look at the live odds on the Broncos here. I don't really back the Titans. If anyone is to bottle a lead of 20 points, it is the Titans. So we had a look on Ladbrokes, and the Broncos were paying $6.50. Of course, I had $14.50 in my account. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to call them up, place the $14.50 on the Broncos at $6.50 to win it. And we all know what happened next. The Broncos scored 31 unanswered points to close out the game, finishing the game 35-24. They are on an absolute tear right now. And again, without Adam Reynolds, they show that they just are too good. Unfortunately for the Titans, their season just seems to be getting worse and worse. And, again, when the Broncos have players who are just playing for the badge and playing with effort like that, I think they're always a chance. I also think the performance of Pat Carrigan on the weekend is what gave him the Queensland Maroons jersey this week. I thought he was unbelievable. Not only defensively does he get through his tackles, but he also just keeps running the ball. He seems to be one of those props that, anytime you need meters or anytime you need that tackle to be made, he is the one to do it. And I also think Payne Haas had a big point to prove. Obviously, throughout the week, there's been talks of him wanting to leave the Broncos, and he was getting booed pretty much every time he touched the ball in the first half. Yet in the second half, every time he touched the ball, he was making 10 to 15 meters, plus. If I were the Broncos, I would be doing anything I can to hold on to Payne Haas. When he's playing like that, he's not only the most lethal prop in the game, but I think he is one of the best, if not the best, forwards in the game, undoubtedly. The Tigers have been pretty poor over the past few seasons, and it really looked like they were building towards something positive. And again, they got absolutely smacked on the weekend. They were up 12-0, and then they got out to 18-12. They were taking a lead into halftime. That was another game where I saw the live odds, and I thought to myself, I should bet on these, but I didn't because, again, I wanted the Tigers to win. And as a Tigers fan, all of my mates who are Tigers fans, they say the same thing. They don't want to see their team coming 4th or 3rd. They know that that's unrealistic right now. They just want to see their team giving an effort and, putting in every week. And I think that we saw that in the first half. But I don't know what happened in the second half. That was just, it was a really poor performance. I don't know if the players looked like they were giving 100% effort, but, we just saw back-to-back tries, and it seemed like the Rabbitohs were scoring every 4 or 5 minutes. The media is obviously talking about crisis talks going on in the Tigers this week, and again, they're saying that Michael Maguire might be up for the sack. I really don't want to see Michael Maguire sacked. I think that he is the coach to take this team forward. I just think if you look at their squad on paper, to be honest, and it's nothing against the Tigers players, but I really do think that they are the worst team on paper in the comp. I really do. They're coming 14th right now, but if you look at that squad, I don't know how many coaches in the NRL would get anything incredible out of that squad. For example, I think the Bulldogs are much stronger on paper than the Tigers, and the Tigers are still outperforming them. So I don't want to see Madge get sacked. Obviously, the media talk and, the media put pressure on clubs to make these decisions. But, we saw Trent Barrett get sacked by the Bulldogs only a couple of weeks ago. I really hope that we don't see that from Madge. Unfortunately, I just don't think that they had the talent on paper. I think that there are a few new signings coming in next season, such as Isaiah Papali'i and potentially Payne Haas that we're hearing. I think that those two signings would be massive and would turn the club around. I really just hope that Madge is the coach to be able to be there next season. We saw the Sharks lose to the Roosters 36-16. Now, one of the points I made early on in the season when I said that their struggle is going to come around that Origin mid-season period, I think that teams are starting to work out Nico Hines and Sifa Talakai. They're obviously two of the biggest players that get spoken about with the Cronulla's success. And although I don't think they've been playing bad at all, I think teams are just starting to see how they play. One of the prime examples I'll use there is Nicho Hynes threw 8 dummy passes on the weekend, and the Roosters read every single one of them. They also know how to control his kicking game, and they know that he's often going to try run the ball unless there's nothing on, where he's always going to try pass it. And I think that they really neutralised him. I don't really think that he looked dangerous going forward. He had no try assists, no line breaks, no line break assists, and no tries. And I know that you can't just judge a player solely on those 4 statistics, but, it was evident watching the game that the Roosters were all over him, and they did have his number. I'm not off the Sharks at all. I know that the media are already saying, the Sharks have fallen into 7th, blah, blah, blah. I'm not off them at all. I just think that the really good teams are able to work through this period. Yes, they've been worked out. They were a new squad with a lot of new players playing in different positions, such as Nicho Hynes coming in and Sivitalakai coming in, etc., etc. I'm not off them at all. I just think that the really good teams with the good coaches are able to work through this period and formulate new game plans and new ways to win football matches. And I really do think that they will be able to do that. So this Origin period will be a little bit harder for them, but fortunately they do have a bye this weekend, so Nicho Hynes won't affect them, or Nicho Hynes being out won't affect them this weekend. For the Roosters, they moved back into 6th position, and I think that we also saw the return of not just James Tedesco, but we saw the return of the best player in the NRL. I've said it for a few weeks now, Tedesco just looks like he's getting better and better every week, but when you play like that, I don't think there's any denying that he is the best player in the NRL when he is on like that. I called the Roosters pretenders a few weeks ago, but we are now starting to see them put it together offensively. They're gelling more. I think Sam Walker, Luke Keary are starting to look a little bit more comfortable around the pitch. I think James Tedesco interjecting himself a little bit more into the game as he has been takes a little bit of pressure off those guys. And I think that the Roosters are just looking like one of those teams that, again, we said it early on, I think the Roosters are beginning to more and more look like that team that are now only a season or two away off winning a comp. I think that if Brendan Smith walked into this current Roosters team right now and it was next season, I think that, again, they would not be competing for that premiership, but they'd be around that 2nd or 3rd position. This is the Roosters that I wanted to see a few weeks ago, and I think that they're only going to get stronger going into the end of the season. We also saw Joey Manu return to being the best centre in the NRL again over the weekend, and you can't deny that. I really don't think anyone is in his calibre when he's on. We'll see him move to fullback this weekend, where I'm sure he'll carve up too. So, again, the Roosters playing like this, Joey Manu playing the way he is, and James Tedesco, I don't think that they're going to push for that premiership, but they are really showing positive signs, and we can, only time will tell to see how far they can go this year. In other sports, onto the Champions League. Liverpool, unlucky, with an unlucky loss against Real Madrid, 1-0. To be honest, not just because I'm a Liverpool supporter, but I really do think that they did outplay Real Madrid statistically, and just watching the game, I think that they were much, much better. Liverpool had 24 shots to Real Madrid's 4. But they just unfortunately couldn't find the back of the net. For me, the loss came down to 2 things. It came down to the performance of Thibaut Courtois, or Real Madrid's goalkeeper. He was sensational. He made 9 saves. To me, 3 or 4 of those were definite goals against pretty much any other goalkeeper in the world. The other thing that it came down to, for me, was the defence of Virgil van Dijk when the goal was scored by Real Madrid. Virgil van Dijk is known for his defensive style, where he kind of jockeys and lets players either try to make their move to beat him, where he steps in and tackles them, or he'll jockey them long enough that another Liverpool defender can step in. But we saw Virgil van Dijk hold off Valverde, give him way too long on the ball. Valverde just hits a low, hard ball to the back post, and we just see Vinicius Jr. tap it in the back of the goal. But I think that goal was down to him just holding off Valverde too long. And I also think that their loss ultimately came down to that, and the heroics of Thibaut Courtois. And for our road to 10K multi, for those of you who don't know, all we do is put $10 on a $2 odd or more. So $10 on $2 odds. We take the winnings, $20 on $2 odds, etc., etc., etc. Compound them. We're going to win 10 in a row, and this will be our first bet of winning 10 in a row. So this week I have the Melbourne Demons to beat the Sydney Swans in the AFL, and I have the Sydney Roosters to beat the Canberra Raiders on Sunday afternoon. Now you may be thinking, the Roosters to beat the Raiders, they have a few players out. Yes, they do have a few players out. However, Joey Manu moves to fullback, so I don't think they lose a whole lot of quality there. And I think the Raiders, without Josh Papali and Jack Whiten, I think that leaves too many holes in their squad completely. So those 2 legs coming together will pay a total of $2.10 with Odds Boost. I've put $10 on that, and I'll be bringing you guys my $21 in winnings to add to a compounding bet next week. That is our Feb4 Sports Show multi for the week. That is our Road to 10K multi for the week. And as always, thank you for tuning in. That is our show for today. We've been bringing you this show in about 8-degree heat. You can probably also see that my hands are turning blue. Rudy behind the camera is rugged up. It's cold, but we do this rain, hell or shine. We appreciate the views, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.